I'm Danielle, and I worked with Amanda, Lovedeep, Megan, and Crystal on our project for workplace violence. Workplace violence is a serious problem in the nursing field. There are high rates of workplace aggression varying from bullying to violence. This is linked to a range of negative consequences. The violence could be a single act of violence or a repeated violent pattern. According to a study, morning shift workers are more likely to be bullied than other shift workers. There is an especially high rate of an emotional abuse, and those with low levels of job control are more likely to be associated with violence. Risk for violence in the workplace is apparent in the hospital setting because nurses in the hospital are considered an oppressed group. They are influenced by medical hierarchies and are thought to lack power and control in these hierarchies. This increases their vulnerability to workplace aggression and violence. Antecedents to workplace violence include job demand, job control, and social support. Negative affectivity and demographic factors can also play a role in workplace violence and bullying.
Thanks, Danielle. We'll take it from here. My name is Amanda.
I'm Crystal. I'm Megan.
I'm Lovedeep.
And we're going to continue where you left off.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about the types of workplace violence. Type 1 is criminal intent. This happens when a criminal activity is being committed, such as robbery, and the person who's committing the violence has no relationship to the workplace. And type 2 is customer and client. So this is when a perpetrator is the customer or client at the workplace, and they become violent while they're being cared for. And then type 3 is worker on worker or horizontal violence. And this happens when employees or past employees of the workplace commit violence for one another. And then type 4 is personal relationship. So this happens when the perpetrator usually has a personal relationship with an employee.
So I'll be going over the phases of workplace violence. The first phase is the pre-event, prior to the assault. So during this phase, the nurse would want to visit in pairs or with an escort. For example,
Hey Amanda, my patient's being a little aggressive. Would you accompany me to his room?
sure, I'd be glad to. It sounds like a safe idea. The second phase is the actual event where the assault occurs. At this point, you would want to call the code and implement security procedures. Get security in the area as soon as you can. The third phase is the post-event or post-assault. At this point, all the staff should be debriefed and learn from the situation and how it can be better prevented for the future. Prevalence. There is an increasing prevalence of workplace violence. 68 to 80% of workplace violence is horizontal violence, meaning violence between staff members. And 23% of nurses experience violence in their workplace. These nurses have reported feeling powerless and humiliated, and new graduate nurses report a higher level of absenteeism, considering leaving the nursing profession due solely to violence.
Prevention. Nurse leaders are capable of preventing violence, and there are many ways to do it, such as through support and education. And one of the ways to do this is to provide resources that can help reduce job stress and anxiety. It's also important to provide feedback to staff when it's needed. And it also helps if scripted responses are provided to the staff ahead of time to help them in these kind of situations where violence is about to occur. And there can also be provided formal and informal classes, and also posters and flyers that will help them to remember things. And the most important thing is to make sure that staff feels empowered throughout all of this.
And last, interventions. Interventions should be addressed in 4 areas. Regulatory, policy and regulations should be adopted and practiced throughout the hospital. Educational programs should be focused on prevention, early intervention, legal and ethical issues, and access to resources. Nursing practice intervention. Institutional barriers should be eliminated for a safe work environment by supporting a culture of open communication and reporting among nursing staff, faculty, healthcare personnel, and students regarding violence in the workplace, as well as data collection and dissemination. Data should be collected and analyzed to assess the scope and incidence, the impact of workplace violence, and as well as to assess management, documentation, and response to violence in the workplace.
And that concludes our presentation on workplace violence.